Working out who abducted and murdered 3-year-old Cheryl Grimmer almost 50 years ago should be easy. 18 months after the sickening crime at a crowded Wollongong beach, a man claiming to be the killer admitted it. He gave detectives a detailed confession. But if you think that made it case closed, you're wrong. Cursory police work and an extraordinary legal technicality mean this man's never been prosecuted. He continues to walk free. For the Grimmer family, the insult of knowing that, combined with the loss of their beautiful Cheryl, is as painful today as it ever was. But it hasn't lessened their incredible resolve to seek justice for her murder. Fairy Meadow Beach, Wollongong. Without a sound and without a trace, 3-year-old Cheryl Grimmer disappears.
It's the worst 90 seconds of my life.
50 years on.
It was just a terrible day. She was gone.
3 brothers still haunted by their sister's disappearance.
You okay, Paul?
This cop broke the case.
Have we got that man? Bloody oath we have.
But then it broke him.
That was the time I knew I couldn't be a police officer anymore.
The final straw?
How can you walk when you've committed a murder and you've confessed to it?
The man who confessed to killing Cheryl gets to walk free.
If there's a murderer walking the streets, don't we all want him locked up?
It's July 2016, and Detective Frank Sanvitali has just been handed a 50-year-old cold case. It's a case the Wollongong cop knows well, as do most who live in the Illawarra. The taking of 3-year-old Cheryl Grimmer. Frank, of all the cases you've worked on, how would you describe the Cheryl Grimmer case?
This is probably the hardest case I've ever worked on personally, because I've lived in the Illawarra all my life. It changed my life. It changed, I think, a lot of people in the Illawarra when she went missing. I think there's a bit of an innocence lost. It always stuck in your head, where did this little girl go? What happened to her?
Frank poured through boxes of police archives, going back in time to the summer of 1970, when there was no bigger news, no more desperate search than that surrounding the missing toddler.
So how did that day start out?
It was a very hot summer's day, being early January, and we lived across the road in the hostel, and I sort of nagged my mum, we're new to the country, we've got a beautiful beach, and we wanted to come down the beach as kids.
This scratchy photo captures the day. Ricky, just 7, along with his brother Stephen, aged 5, and Paul, 4, are playing on Fairy Meadow Beach with their mum and baby sister Cheryl.
It was a beautiful day. It was a really nice day. And, kids being kids, building sandcastles, and Cheryl running up and down the waterline as we did. We didn't venture in too far because the surf was all new to us coming from Bristol in the UK.
But within a few hours, this idyllic outing comes to an end with the onset of a southerly change.
Everyone packed up and started to leave, so you can imagine how many people are up near the surf club trying to get out the wind and shower and that with the kids.
Mum, 26-year-old Cheryl Grimmer, sent the kids ahead while she packed up on the beach.
My mother asked me to take Stephen and Paul and Cheryl up to the shower blocks to wash the sand off, to walk back to the hostel.
Had you done that before?
No.
On the way to the showers, Cheryl stops for a drink at the Bubbler. So back in 1970, this part of the building wasn't here, but this was.
Yeah.
And so on that day, Cheryl's here, here? Tell me where
she was standing just over there and nearly teasing me that I couldn't come in.
Having got Cheryl showered in the men's changing room, Ricky was then unable to coax his playful sister out of the nearby ladies' shower block.
I said, look, I've got to go and get Mum, you're going to get into trouble. And she still wouldn't come. She was just laughing, smiling, not a care in the world. My brothers were playing just over here. And I just wish every day I would have sent one of them and just stood here. But I didn't. Walked down to the beach to get my mother. I just wish I'd dragged her.
Why didn't you go in and grab her?
When I was a boy, I didn't want to go into the girls' shower block. There was other girls in there. I didn't want to go in. They were told not to go in.
It makes perfect sense.
Not really now. I just wish I would have just reached in and dragged her.
You were 7.
Still given the responsibility to look after her. I didn't do that.
In a decision he still can't forgive himself for, Ricky leaves Cheryl to fetch his mother, followed by his little brothers.
Mum was still packing up. She was actually, I can see her bending over now.
Yeah.
Gosh.
I know. It's okay, it's all right. Just take a moment, take a moment. It's all right.
It was all of 90 seconds. But by the time Cheryl Grimmer got her boys back to the change shed, there was no sign of Cheryl.
Nothing seemed to be wrong until my mum was sort of just shaking me and saying, where did you leave her? And I told her several times over.
And then it set in. She was gone. Rick was freaking out, Mum was freaking out. It was just a terrible day.
I mean, as a 7-year-old, what was going through your mind at that point? You weren't thinking...
That she was somewhere here.
Yeah, you weren't thinking a stranger's taken her?
No, not at all. I didn't know what abduction was or anything about taking a child. I didn't know anything about that.
A minute and a half is all it took for a family to be forever changed, to suffer a lifetime of grief and guilt.
It does. It certainly does.
Just too much, Paul? Yeah.
Can't talk.
It's okay.
Yeah, it's just a nightmare.
Yeah.
Here we are 50 years later, 3, not 4. For me, it's like living the day, every day of my life.
Cheryl's disappearance galvanised the people of the Illawarra to mount one of the biggest searches ever seen in New South Wales.
There's just no trace of her at the moment, so...
Even the Army got involved, supporting Cheryl's dad, Vince, who was one of their own.
Well, if in fact she has been taken away by someone, have you any words for that particular person? Oh, I got some words, all right, I'll tell you that now. But if anybody has got my daughter, I would honestly and truly, I would like her back unharmed, as early and as quick as possible. That's about all I can say.
There were leads, multiple reports of a man taking a toddler, but no trace of Cheryl was found, and the police investigation went cold.
Mum had a hard life after that. It was like, Dad was a really nice man, but he was really hard. It was sort of like, hey, you 4 lost my baby daughter. That's what it felt like some days. Some days it was great. Other days you think, he's blaming us for losing Cheryl, and that's not nice.
But mostly, it seemed, the broken Vince blamed Ricky.
We had a strained relationship from that day on. Unfortunately, if he had a drink too many, the blame would come out. Why did he leave her? Why did he leave? You hear that enough, and you start to question, why did I?
For decades, the case of Cheryl Grimmer went untouched. Year after year, the tormented family not knowing what happened to their baby girl. But 47 years after she disappeared, Wollongong detective Frank Sanvitali made a stunning find. Cheryl's fate may have been known all along. Her killer right under their noses. When you first read that confession, did any part of you go, well, he could have made this up?
No way in the world.
Coming up,
I'm like a dog with a bone.
a cop's determination pays off.
I come around the front of the pavilion behind her and grabbed her.
A confession stacks up.
How could somebody give that much detail, what she was wearing?
I couldn't believe it.
But why wasn't the family told?
This bloke's confessed to it, and they're telling us now, and this is 47 years later?
That's next on 60 Minutes. The disappearance and suspected murder of 3-year-old Cheryl Grimmer in 1970 rocked the Illawarra community. The case was high profile and heartbreaking, so it's hard to imagine that it would languish for nearly 50 years in police archives. But that's exactly what happened, making it one of the oldest cold cases on record. Without much hope of success, the files were finally dusted off in 2016 and handed to Wollongong detective Frank Sanvitali. What he would ultimately find would break open the case, but it would also bring a new wave of untold grief to the Grimmer family. As a police officer, being given the opportunity to look into it, even perhaps solve it, did you welcome that?
I did. I knew how old the case was. I'm like a dog with a bone. When I picked it up, I couldn't let it go.
Not long into the new investigation, Frank found himself with a new partner, the equally dogged Detective Damien Loon.
I still remember we stood there in front of these boxes, and Damo said to me, I call him Damo, he said to me, Frank, the murderer's here in these boxes somewhere. I had a bit of a laugh to myself, but okay.
For the next couple of months, Frank and his partner would sift through thousands of running sheets, cross-checking leads long gone cold, interviewing and eliminating former suspects. And then, one day, in yet another box, they uncovered this, a chilling confession made in 1971.
Would you like to tell us what you know about the disappearance of this girl?
Nearly a year and a half after Cheryl disappeared, a 17-year-old runaway made a startling admission to police.
I come around the front of the pavilion behind her and grabbed her.
Volunteering, he had abducted Cheryl.
There was some bloke sitting on the wall in front of the pavilion, so I had to put my hand over her mouth to stop her from screaming. Because if she had have screamed, he would have heard it.
When you came across this confession, what was your reaction to that?
The first thing was the detail. How could somebody give that much detail of Ferry Meadow Beach, of Cheryl, of where he took her, what she was wearing?
Which suggests what?
Well, it suggests he was telling the truth.
What was your intention?
I was going to have sexual intercourse with her.
The detail of what he said he eventually did to little Cheryl is deeply disturbing.
Did you have sexual intercourse with her?
No, because she started to scream as soon as I took the gag off her.
What did you do when she started to scream?
I put my hands around her throat and told her to shut up.
What happened then?
I guess I must have strangled her. She stopped breathing and stopped crying, and I thought she was dead. So I panicked and covered her up with bushes and run for it.
On that day, he says he gets here early in the morning. and hangs around the surf area here.
Frank says retracing the confession gives a clear picture of how Cheryl was taken.
The accused says he runs around the ladies' showers, around the back of the shower block, and grabs her just along here.
Right.
And takes her over to the sandhills, straight across to the left there.
To the sandhills just over there?
Yeah. That's where he says he ties her up with his shoelaces and a handkerchief.
We know at the time he'd escaped from a juvenile detention home. Previously lived in the area.
We were told what he had done. That's a hard part to talk about.
The grief for Cheryl's brothers, Ricky, Paul and Steve Grimmer, is compounded by anger. They were staggered to learn, through Frank, that this confession even existed.
We were shocked. We looked at each other and said, hang on, this bloke's confessed to it and they're telling us now? And this is 47 years later? They're telling us that someone admitted to killing our sister? I couldn't believe it. That's disgusting as far as I'm concerned.
It's hard to fathom now, but police at the time made cursory inquiries before filing it to be forgotten for half a century. The fact that the police investigating it at the time didn't do much with the confession, that it sat in this box for all those years, what does that tell you about what they thought of his confession?
The police said there was not enough substantial evidence to arrest the person.
So what he was talking about couldn't be corroborated?
Correct.
Do you accept that?
No.
How do you respond to the comments made at the time on the running sheet by those investigating officers that this person wasn't a reliable witness, that he was prone to untruths and highly suggestible?
Everything he said in that confession we found to be true. We did not find one lie. Hey, Phil, how you going, mate? Wow.
With Frank's help, we've been put in touch with one of the two detectives who took the original confession. Phil Finlay was the junior officer on the day the 17-year-old made his damning admissions.
On face value, it certainly fitted the framework that we were looking at. He seemed to be familiar with the dressing shed area.
At the time, did you feel like he was telling you the truth?
Well, I had no reason to think he wasn't, because he was so fluent answering without any hesitation. It all just flowed on from his mouth.
How did you strangle her?
With my hands.
But the officer in charge on the day took a sceptical view of the confession. He judged it didn't warrant further investigation because police couldn't substantiate the details given to describe the place where the teenager said he murdered Cheryl. But even so, to Phil Finlay, the confession was compelling.
For you personally, at any stage, do you think we should arrest this guy?
Yeah, but it was decided by my partner to leave the case open, but not in no way eliminate the guy we'd spoken to as a suspect.
Did you agree with that?
Well, I went along with it, yes. Yeah.
I know, going along with it when you're a junior cop is different to agreeing with it.
Well, you've hit the nail on the head.
So if you'd been the senior cop on the day, the outcome might have been different?
Well, could have been, yeah.
So for 47 years, the confession was forgotten.
So back in the day, this would have all been far more.
But in 2016, with Frank Sanvitali, came fresh eyes and a new determination to either corroborate it or eliminate it once and for all.
This is where we believe Cheryl's body was left by the accused. In his confession, he talks about walking from the beach with Cheryl up to this area here.
50 years ago, this was all farmland, about to be turned into a new suburb. But on the 12th of January 1970,
I put my hands around her throat,
it also became a gravesite,
told her to shut up.
according to the man confessing to the murder of Cheryl.
She stopped breathing and stopped crying.
You believe that first confession?
Very much so. There's a little girl in that area there, round here.
To the original investigators, the suspect said when he brought Cheryl here, he remembered distinct tubular fencing and a cattle grid, details those officers could not confirm.
He gives so much detail. He talks about the fence, the grid, how he left the body.
Half a century later, Frank had a different result. Confirmation from the very family that owned the farm at the time.
The sons of the owner of the farm, he built the fence. He built the cattle grid from Lizard's railing.
Yep.
So he remembers that quite clearly.
So you were able to corroborate everything he said in that confession?
Yeah.
Where police officers in the past couldn't?
We did.
I took the little girl's swimsuit with me.
In his confession, the teenager said, after killing Cheryl, he took with him her towel and swimming costume. He described where he dumped those items. The towel in a drain outside a service station and the costume in an incinerator at a camping ground.
I burnt them in the incinerator on the beach going up towards Corrimal.
While neither piece could be retrieved, the service station and incinerator were both where he said they were.
He talks about the costume, the towel, where he took the towel, where he dumped the towel, where he burnt the costume, Cheryl's costume. And that's the first thing that got me. And I said, well, there's a lot of detail here. How does somebody come up with that story? That really stood out for me.
But it was this next detail that made the confession ring true to the boys who were there. He saw Cheryl have a drink at the bubbler.
Did the little girl come out with the other children?
Yes. She had a drink at the water fountain. Someone lifted her up, I think.
That someone was Ricky.
Do you remember her voice? Do you remember her asking you for a drink?
I don't remember the asking for a drink. I could just see that she wanted a drink, so I helped her up.
How critical was it, in your opinion, that he described seeing Ricky give Cheryl a drink at the bubbler?
That was what you call a eureka moment. Just that detail there. He had to be here. He had to be here. And he saw what he saw.
So, Rick, for you to learn that within that confession was a description of you picking up Cheryl to give her a drink, what was that like?
Surreal. For me, I mean, it just confirmed he was there, watching, waiting for his opportunity.
If you weren't there, you wouldn't have known that Rick picked Cheryl up to give her a drink at the bubbler. And it's in his statement. So, in my eyes, that's 100% yes, he's telling the truth. I killed your sister.
Coming up.
He knows he's guilty. We know he's guilty. The police know he's guilty.
So, why isn't he in prison?
How can you walk when you've committed a murder and you've confessed to it?
And confronting a confessed killer.
Sir, Tara Brown from 60 Minutes.
That's next on 60 Minutes. This is the man who confessed to murdering 3-year-old Cheryl Grimmer in 1970.
She would not be quiet, so I put my arms around her throat and strangled her.
He can't be identified because he was 16 at the time.
I covered her up with bushes and leaves and threw some dirt on top.
Now 65, he's free to go about his life in suburban Melbourne, protected by anonymity and the certainty that he's now beyond the law.
He knows he's guilty. We know he's guilty. The police know he's guilty. If the police would have just done their job 48 years ago when he walked in and gave such a detailed confession, we wouldn't be sitting here today. Our lives would have been totally different, I'm sure.
As the years have gone by for brothers Ricky, Paul and Steve, the outrage has only ever grown. Never did they imagine their fight for justice would be such a cruel road.
This guy's been hiding in boxes for 50 years nearly because no one else took the time to look, investigate, do their job.
For the last 3 years, on that road with them has been former Wollongong detective Frank Sanvitali.
It's one of those cases that you get in your career where you just can't let go. We're talking about a 3-year-old girl here. We're talking about Cheryl.
So I mean, looking at these brothers and knowing it's their sister you're talking about, it affects you so deeply. How do you feel about them?
These 3 guys are like brothers to me now. I don't know what they're going through, and sometimes I deeply feel I should never have picked up that bloody brief.
It was in that brief that Frank found the forgotten confession that seemed to crack open the case, that made justice seem so much closer. When you first read that confession, did any part of you go, well, he could have made this up?
No way in the world. There's too much detail. In 21 years, I've seen some confessions, I've heard some stories. That takes the cake. Every bit of what he said, we found it to be true. There was nothing in that story that he gave that we found not to be true.
Frank's next step was to find the suspect. That was surprisingly easy, but the most astounding surprise, what still staggers Frank today, was what he had to say.
I get a phone call on my mobile phone. He says, "What do you need to speak to me about?" And I said, "You tell me." There was a very long pause, and then he says to me, "Is it something? It's something I did when I was very young, which I regret every day of my life."
He said those words to you?
He said those words to me. It's in my statement. Then he says, "Is it about a young girl at Ferry Beach?" He didn't use Ferry Meadow, he just said Ferry, I remember that. And I said it could be.
The man agreed to meet Frank and his partner, Detective Damien Loon, at a police station in Victoria. Though he'd been advised to bring a lawyer, he showed up on his own.
The first question we asked was, "Why haven't you got legal representation?" And he says, "I just want to get it off my chest." I thought then and there he was going to confess to us.
Frank presented him with the 1971 confession to murder, which he readily admitted he'd made. But when it came to the critical question, "Did you do it?" this time he had a different answer.
We put the confession in front of him. We go through the confession. He actually signs it again. So he adopts it. He says, "Yeah, that's me. I made that confession." He signs every page. And we go through every one of those questions. Until we got down to what happened with Cheryl, he says, "No, I was never there." When he sat there and said, "No, I've never been there," and he had 47 or 48 years to come up with an alibi, for me, that was a moment I said, "Yeah, we got our man."
Given the detail of the area he'd given at the time, his denial seemed false and pathetically inadequate. And so, after half a century, Frank thought the Cheryl Grimmer case had finally been solved.
Do you have anything to say about your arrest?
The man was immediately arrested, which didn't seem to come as any great shock to him.
We said to him, "You're going to be charged with the murder of Cheryl Grimmer, and you'll be extradited back to New South Wales." And he basically said, I better tell someone. I know if that was me and I didn't do it, I'll be kicking up a storm.
At the time you arrested him, did he ever say, "You've got the wrong man?
No.
This is a big mistake"?
No. Have we got our man? Bloody oath we have. He's the man.
No doubt.
No doubt.
For the Grimmer brothers, the news of the murder charge was met with mixed feelings. It forced them to accept Cheryl was never coming home, but also that finally someone was being held accountable for her death and their pain. When you heard that a man had been arrested over the murder of your sister, what was your reaction at that point?
Mine was finally we're going to get some results. We finally got the grub that took our little baby sister.
Great. Unbelievable. We're getting somewhere with it. I just feel for Mum and that they didn't get to hear this. They need to hear this. They got somebody. All those years have not known.
For 2 years, the murder suspect, who pleaded not guilty, was held on remand here at Silverwater Jail. His trial set for May this year. But in February, at a pre-trial hearing, the judge was asked by his lawyers to throw out the confession. They argued it was inadmissible because the 17-year-old accused did not have a parent, guardian or lawyer present when he volunteered his crimes in 1971.
In those days, it was not a legal requirement for a juvenile to have such a protection. That law came in some years later, but the judge in the Grimmer case agreed to have that law applied retrospectively, finding it would be unfair to the accused to have his confession included as evidence. The judge also said, at the time, police should have cautioned the accused earlier in their interview, making it clearer that he was a suspect, not just a witness.
Obviously disappointed. We did what we thought was right in the circumstances at the time.
Former officer Phil Finlay, who took the confession all those years ago, not only defends how it was taken, but what's in it.
Do you believe he was there?
Yes. Yeah. There's too much detail there to exclude him from what was said, what he put in the interview.
Do you believe he did it?
Yes. Yeah.
But the damning confession was out, and so was the suspect, released from jail, with the case against him now considered unwinnable. The Grimmers were devastated.
How can you walk when you've committed a murder and you've confessed to it? But you get away because you didn't have a parent holding your hand when you were questioned by the police?
All this evidence is now just sitting there again and possibly may not be heard again. How can this happen? I mean, this is not real, surely. Are we just, sitting in a play? I mean, this is just stupidity. It can't happen twice, surely. We're not going to let it happen.
No, definitely not.
We'll be the voice of our parents. Enough. Enough's enough. We just want, at the end of the day, all of the evidence to be heard. If he walks out of that court a free man, so be it. So be it. We don't believe that will happen.
The judgment broke Frank. After 21 years with the police force, he walked away from his dream job.
There was nothing wrong with it. There was nothing wrong with the confession, the way it was taken. I just could not believe it.
What was the overriding feeling for you to hear that?
This poor family, my Christ. Sometimes I think about Ricky and Paul and Stephen, how they're still alive. It's got me. That was the time I knew I couldn't be a police officer anymore. That's when I just can't do it anymore. That was the final straw. Not a 3-year-old girl, no. No, they got to me. We got a murderer walking the streets. That's how I feel. Yeah, we got the right man.
Coming up,
Hello, sir. Tara Brown from 60 Minutes.
confronting the confessor,
Seen this before? This is your confession.
and why this cop won't give up.
I see Cheryl in my dreams. Blonde girl, just keeps on saying, don't let go. We'll get there.
That's next on 60 Minutes. Nearly 50 years ago, this was a man prepared to talk about a most heinous crime when he confessed to snatching and then strangling 3-year-old Cheryl Grimmer.
Hello, sir. Tara Brown.
Today, he won't say a
I'd like to
word,
speak to you about Cheryl Grimmer. Have you got away with murder, sir?
even though the murder charge against him was dropped in
Have
February.
you seen this before? This is your confession where you tell police you strangled her.
He certainly won't explain why he gave such detail of a murder to police all those years ago.
Has the death, the murder of Cheryl Grimmer haunted you all these years, or is it something you've forgotten, or is it something that thrills you? Sir, what did you do to that little girl? And why don't you come clean now?
It's just disbelief. I mean, how do you put into words how we feel that a person that we know did what he did to Cheryl? Just walk out of that courtroom. How? Because he didn't have an adult present when it wasn't required at the time.
For Ricky and his brothers Steve and Paul Grimmer, this man has got off on the worst type of legal technicality. And former Supreme Court Judge Anthony Wheely agrees the judgment is not about the truth of the confession, but how that confession was taken. Would you accept that the further police investigation corroborates that confession, confirms its truth?
Yes, if that were the issue, I think that would be so. However, that wasn't the issue the judge was looking at. The judge's task was not to test the validity of that confession, but to test the circumstances of the interview itself and the condition of the young person.
According to Anthony, as mad and maddening as the result might seem, the judge on the day was working within the dispassionate confines of the law, which means there are no grounds on which to appeal. Do the police or the family have any more avenues to pursue this particular person?
I understand that the Attorney-General has taken advice and has come to the conclusion, regrettable though it is, that no appeal would be likely to succeed. And I must say that would be my view as well. So the answer to your question is no, there doesn't appear to be any further avenue.
Can you understand and sympathise with the family?
Of course. Of course, it's a terrible situation. If I were in that position where a child of mine had been murdered or disappeared, I would be so distraught and angry and understand perfectly that they are. But the law has been upheld, and that's what, as citizens, we have to accept.
It's like we're on our own. We're on our own fighting the New South Wales justice system. In our eyes, stinks. Now we're here. We're trying to get him back in court. Get him where he belongs, in jail. That's where he belongs.
Do you accept that there may not be any more avenues?
No, I'm not accepting anything.
No.
We made a promise to our mother and we're going to keep it, no matter what it takes, what people we hurt, what toes we stand on. We are going to stand on toes until my sister is heard. And we will not stop.
The raw anguish this family suffers is hard to witness, so it must be unbearable to live with day after day.
I don't deserve happiness. I should have not left her standing there on her own.
But we all shouldn't have left her. I know you were the oldest, but we were all there. We all shouldn't have left her at all. But being little kids, you don't expect someone to come and pick your little sister up and run off with them.
Former detective Frank Sanvitali, driven by a desire to bring justice and peace to families like the Grimmers, feels instead he's let them down by not getting his man.
How do I feel towards him? I'd rather not say. I think you know how I feel towards him. If this is what the community wants, so be it. I don't think it is.
Frank may have left the force, but that doesn't mean he's given up on Cheryl. And nor, it seems, has she given up on him.
I see Cheryl in my dreams. It's a dream, it's not a nightmare. I see her standing on the beach. Little blonde girl just keeps on saying, don't let go, we'll get there. I'm not a police officer anymore, but it's still my case. That's how I see it.
Give Cheryl her chance. Let her be heard. We want it heard. And I think people want it heard. If there's a murderer walking the streets, don't we all want him locked up? Don't we want him off the streets? He's sitting at home now. We're here still fighting. Common sense, come on, please.